Well, hello and welcome to our short video series exploring the Bible book of Revelation, and we are into chapter 17 today, and we start with the first 6 verses of that chapter, and this is what they say. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, and I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute, who sits by many waters. With her the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries." Then the angel carried me away in the spirit to a wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittered with gold, precious stones and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with the abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. The name written on her forehead was a mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abomination of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. So here we've shifted camera angle once again at the start of this chapter, and an angel leads John to the wilderness to take a closer look at the fall of Babylon the Great and her judgment. We saw last time that judgment was complete, and John's going to now shift his camera angles around to give us a good view of what's going on and tell us something a bit different about that final judgment in Revelation here. Now in these last chapters from here to the end, we're going to see 2 cities being described, both described as women. We've got Babylon the Great we're introduced to now, described as a prostitute, and the other one, Jerusalem, described as a bride. And we're going to have to wait till chapter 21 for exploring Jerusalem the bride. But what we need to know at this point is that, as is the case throughout Revelation, 2 alternatives are being placed before us: 2 sets of values, 2 ways to live, two people to worship, 2 futures. All these things are being placed before us, and these 2 cities described, personified as women, are the same. The question that's being asked of us this time is, who do you belong to? The prostitute or the bride? Is your heart set on earthly treasures or on heavenly treasures? So we start with Babylon, and in the wilderness John sees a prostitute called Babylon the Great, and the angel has told John that he will see the punishment of Babylon and the kings of the earth who've committed adultery with her, and all the people of the earth who were taken in by her, lured by her outward appearance, the purple and scarlet clothes, the gold, the precious stones, pearls, as she's described as wearing. Now remember that Babylon is not literal. In the Old Testament, Babylon became a symbol of the enemies of God and his people, and John is here using that to describe the idolatrous city, the idolatrous people, a centre for human sinfulness, human worship of the beast, if you like. Tracing this throughout the thought through the Bible, all the way back to Babel in Genesis, whose people got together to oppose God by building a tower that went all the way up to heaven for their own glory. So throughout the Old Testament and into the New Testament, with the Roman Empire is also thought of as Babylon, and then into the age of the church, cities spring up again and again who oppose God. The culture grows in opposition to God and his Messiah Jesus and his people, the church. And John is seeing, and we are seeing as we read this, described as a prostitute, cities we may well know ourselves, cities throughout history, people throughout history who are the enemies of Jesus Christ and his people. The prostitute is seduced to other cities and nations across the world, because one of the angels who had one of the 7 bowls took John to see the prostitute. We know that we're about to see God's judgment on her, has been described already in chapter 16. Babylon the Great is a manifestation of the power of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. She's sitting on the beast. What we will see is a manifestation of evil, of Satan, that at first glance seems to be attractive. The gold, the scarlet, the purple, the jewels, the obvious riches of the city, in a worldly sense, cannot be denied. It attracts people. Money and power continue to lead people to abandon God, and in fact, in the end, outright oppose him. But the angel exposes the prostitute's false glory. The image that should fill our minds is like one of a political cartoon, a bloated caricature. Think of Britannia sitting on the British lion, and the lion weighed down by a bloated, fat, drunk Britannia who's wearing her riches but is clearly and utterly grotesque. The true character of the ways of the world, evil empire, and all who are seduced by her are revealed. Here is the mother of all prostitutes, the abomination of the earth, Remember that the term prostitute is used as a way of describing the break in the relationship to God. So worshipping anything, anyone other than God is described as adultery throughout the Old Testament, and that theme is picked up again here with that descriptor of Babylon as a prostitute. The picture couldn't be clearer. John sees the reasons for God's judgment. Those who turn away from God and his Messiah will worship something. Everybody worships something. Humans can't help it. And if it isn't God and his Messiah, Jesus Christ, then it will be, in the end, some form of manifestation of the prostitute sitting on the beast. In the form of money, perhaps, or power, or sex, or fame, or status. All of that leads to an outright violence against Jesus in the form of persecuting his people. So the prostitute Babylon the Great is described as being drunk on the blood of the God's holy people, those who bear testimony to Jesus. Not for the faint-hearted. There's no surprise that John is astonished, and this is important, but we're being told of the judgment of the prostitute, not about her power. There's nothing to fear here for Christians, even if we continue to face violence as we testify to Jesus Christ. Even if the people that were reading Revelation originally continue to face persecution, there's nothing to fear. Jesus Christ, through his death and resurrection, is the sovereign one. And all of this is under his sovereign control. The sovereign control of Christ Jesus, the King.